Discover incredible peace by the waves, miraculous transformation through Jesus' divine covenant. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the skies above the Sea of Galilee held a twilight glow as evening approached, the weary disciples having gathered along the shore. The sun sank low, casting a warm golden light upon the water's surface, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. It was here, on this historic lake, that Jesus, their teacher, stood among them, radiating serene authority. "Let us go across to the other side," he proclaimed. Among this devoted group was Simon, known as Peter, a fisherman of the sea with calloused hands that bore testament to his years of toil. As he gazed across the shimmering water, his heart fluttered with hope, remembering the countless miracles they had witnessed: a blind man healed, the paralyzed walking, food multiplied before their very eyes. Beside him, Andrew, his brother, felt the thrill of the unknown stirring within him. An adventure awaited, yet the weight of uncertainty burdened their hearts. The winds were fickle tonight, and dark clouds loomed ominously on the horizon. They ascended into the boat, crisp night air filling their lungs, but the tone shifted as the serenity gave way to rumbles. The gentle waves soon transformed into monstrous roars, and the Sea of Galilee, once inviting, now churned with ferocity. Simon's instincts gripped him. "Stay calm. We've faced storms before," he urged his companions, but deep down, fear crept into his heart as the boat rocked perilously. Suddenly, amid the chaos, Simon's gaze darted back towards Jesus, who rested peacefully at the stern, untouched by the rising storm. "Teacher!" Peter called, a tremor in his voice betraying his resolve. "Do you not care that we are perishing?" The anguish of their doubt echoed through the roaring night, mingling with the tumultuous winds. Awakening, Jesus regarded his frightened disciples, his demeanor unfazed by their turmoil. With a commanding presence, he rose and spoke to the tempest itself. "Peace! Be still." His voice resonated with divine authority, compelling the very elements to yield. As if captured in a holy pause, the raging wind stilled, while the waves fell to a reverent calm. Nature's awe in submission, the disciples stood in stunned silence, absorbing the serene transformation surrounding them. "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Simon wondered aloud, his heart filled not with fear but a profound wonder. The dawning understanding washed over him, a glimpse into the very essence of Jesus, their promised Messiah, the one who held ultimate authority over creation. As the stars twinkled above in the now peaceful sky, a sacred stillness enveloped the boat. The air buzzed with unspoken thoughts, their hearts balancing between the familiar and the extraordinary. Simon looked around, finding shared awe mirrored in the eyes of his disciples, a bond forged through a divine encounter that would forever change them. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Yet beneath the calm surface of this miraculous moment, an unresolved tension lingered. How could they, mere men, ever comprehend the depths of his authority? As they drifted onward towards the other side, the peace of the sea contrasted sharply with the storm still raging within their hearts. Would they ever truly understand the divine covenant they were being called into, or would fear continue to overshadow their faith as they journeyed with the Son of God? The night was still young, and their longing for answers deepened. A resolution awaited, lingering just beyond their grasp as they ventured into the unknown. And as they approached the shores of the Gadarenes, the disciples glimpsed shadows flickering in the distance, murmurs of an odd spectacle reaching their ears on the night breeze. The boat slid silently onto the sand, the crew having found their footing steadily amidst the uneasiness that had settled over their hearts. Stepping ashore, Simon, still bewildered by the recent miracle, felt a strange mixture of apprehension and exhilaration. The other disciples exchanged glances, uncertain of what awaited them. The air was thick with a dense, foreboding stillness, as if the very ground beneath their feet held its breath. from the dark of the tombs nearby, an unsettling sound erupted, a cacophony that shattered the silence. As they turned towards the source, a wild man emerged, clad in tattered remnants, his hair matted and disheveled. Chains dangled from his wrists, remnants of past attempts to bind his erratic spirit. He bore the marks of hopelessness, yet there was a fire, a storm of fury, flickering within his eyes. Seeing Jesus from a distance, the man let out a piercing cry, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." His voice reverberated, thick with dread yet tinged with a glimmer of recognition, as if he sensed the authority embodied in this Son of God. Jesus stepped forward, eyes fixed upon him with compassion yet unwavering firmness. "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit," he commanded, and the authority in his voice rang clear. The tumultuous heart of the man began to stir, his body convulsed, caught in a struggle between darkness and light. "Who are you?" the unclean spirit shrieked. "My name is Legion, for we are many." The relentless terror echoed through the night, shaking the ground on which the disciples stood. Fear gripped them anew, and Peter could feel his heart pounding against his chest, caught between faith and terror. "Do not send us away from this region," the Spirit pleaded through the man's lips, desperation thickening the air. "Allow us to enter the swine." Jesus reflected a cool determination, and with a simple command, he granted permission. The darkness erupted. The herd of swine feeding on the hillside charged with frantic panic, rushing into the sea and plunging into the depths of the lake, a fitting reflection of the torment cast out. The sound of their frantic descent merged with the disciples' astonished silence, a violence that echoed the chaos they had just escaped at Sea.in. That moment, awe fell upon the evening, and the man formerly torn by demonic oppression stood before Jesus, now in his right mind. Tears streamed down his face as he realized who had liberated him. The light of salvation shone radiantly, a beacon amongst utter despair. "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you," Jesus instructed gently, his voice soothing the tempest within the man's heart. The newly restored soul obeyed, eager to share the truth of his deliverance, a living testament to the power of God's mercy. As the boat slipped back into the waters, the mood shifted anew. The disciples pondered deeply, newfound fear replaced by a burgeoning understanding of their Master's authority over darkness. What did it mean for them, to be witnesses of such miracles? They journeyed on, their hearts stirred yet again, questioning the depths of this divine calling, knowing that the path ahead was fraught with both trials and revelation. Unbeknownst to them, greater trials awaited, but also greater revelations of his purpose. The wheels of God's sovereign plan were set in motion, foreshadowing the transformation of not just a single man, but the very fabric of their lives as scattered vessels would soon be united in a shared destiny. And as the man departed, singing praises to the Lord, the disciples remained, their hearts heavy with the weight of what had just unfolded. They turned their eyes towards Jesus, whose demeanor remained serene amidst the chaos of the world that clung to the shores. "Master," Simon ventured, breaking the silence that pressed against them, "what manner of man is this, that even the unclean spirits obey him?" His voice trembled with wonder as he recalled the fierce cry of Legion. Jesus turned, a look of understanding in his eyes, and spoke softly, "You shall see greater things than these, O ye of little faith." His words were laced with both comfort and challenge, stirring within them a yearning for deeper truths. As the day began to wane, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape of Gadara. A sudden tumult disturbed the evening air, as townsfolk began to gather, drawn by the news of the miracle. They came cautiously, their faces hardened by skepticism and disbelief, their hearts grappling with the reality of the strange occurrence. Seeing the remnant of the swine floating in the distant waters, dread whispered among them. They approached Jesus, fear cloaked beneath their curiosity, crowding around him and demanding answers. "What have you done to our livelihood?" they questioned. "Why do you disturb our peace?" Jesus stood resolute, his countenance reflecting a divine calmness that silenced the chaos swirling about them. "You must understand," he implored, "that true peace is not found in possessions but in salvation. The freedom this man has received is the greater treasure. Their eyes, however, remained hardened, blind to the truth set before them. Disturbed by the supernatural authority that radiated from Jesus, they recoiled. "Leave our borders!" they cried, fear overtaking reason. "Your presence brings only turmoil." The disciples felt the tension thickening, an awareness dawning upon them that they were caught between two worlds, the valley of despair from which the man had emerged and the spiritual kingdom that Jesus represented. Peter's voice trembled as he dared to speak, "Lord, what must we do in the face of such hardened hearts?" Jesus looked upon his disciples with a renewed intensity, the weight of his mission clear in his gaze. "Do not be dismayed. The harvest is plenty but the laborers are few. Be among those who carry this light into the darkness, that others may see and believe." With a single glance to the healed man, who stood at a distance, tears still glistening upon his cheeks, Jesus continued, "Your testimony shall be a lamp unto those who walk in shadows." As the sun vanished entirely beyond the horizon, the disciples gathered close, the coolness of the evening falling upon them like a shroud. Fear faded slowly, replaced by a newfound resolve. "What shall we do now, Lord?" they whispered, anticipation mingling with trepidation. "Go forth," Jesus replied, "for this testimony is just the beginning. Much awaits you, for another miracle is about to unfold, the healing of the multitudes who seek my face." Unbeknownst to them, a great spiritual battle loomed on the horizon, one that would test their faith, unravel their fears, and reveal the grand tapestry of God's sovereign plan, a plan that would reach beyond the shores of Gadara, all toward the fulfillment of ancient prophecies still waiting to be unveiled. As the night enveloped the land, the stars began to sprinkle the heavens, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. The disciples stood in silent contemplation, each man's heart echoing with the solemn words of their master. The cool breeze whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of the sea, a reminder of the trials they faced upon the waters. In the distance, the voice of the healed man could still be heard, lifting praises to the Redeemer who had freed him. The sound mingled with the cries of the townsfolk, who lamented the loss of their swine, a tangible reminder of their earthly sorrow. With the dawn approaching, Jesus beckoned his disciples closer. "The day breaks," he said, "and with it, the hour of greater works is at hand. For I must go to a place where the people await, a multitude yearning for healing." "Master, where shall we venture?" inquired James, a hint of excitement thrumming in his voice. "Is it to the Decapolis, or to the streets of Jerusalem where weary souls gather?" "Indeed," Jesus replied, a glint of purpose illuminating his eyes, "the sick and the lost will seek my presence, but we shall first cross to the land of Israel, to the towns of those who have lost hope. For you must remember, as it is written, I have come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." John 10 verse 10. With resolute hearts, they gathered their simple belongings, the weight of their former fears lifting moment by moment. The sun began to rise, placing a gold hue upon the cool waters, as they embarked in a small boat once more. With each push of the oars, they left behind the land of Gadara, where miracles and unrest coexisted. As they rowed, the tranquility of the sea contrasted sharply against the turbulence of their thoughts. They exchanged glances, unshed questions lingering. But Jesus, ever perceptive, sensed the inquiry swirling in their hearts. "In the coming days, you will witness manifestations of my authority over every affliction. But be mindful, not all will receive this gift of healing. Some will yet struggle against their own beliefs." Peter, eager yet apprehensive, spoke, "Lord, should we not pray forth this faith upon them? What if they doubt, as those men of Gadara?" Jesus, sensing Peter's unrest, replied, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." John 20 verse 29. Teach them to trust in the unseen hand of God, for their very salvation lies wrapped in faith. The boat rocked gently as they approached the shores of Capernaum. Here, the cries of the afflicted rose like incense, mingling with the salt air. People began to gather, drawn by whispers of the man who healed the madman, flooding into the streets with desperation in their eyes. As they disembarked, Jesus turned to his disciples, his expression earnest and full of compassion. "Remember, the greatest among you shall be your servant. Matthew 23 verse 11. And as you step forth, carry with you this truth: God sees the depths of each soul's pain, for even the bruised reed will he not break, and the smoking flax he will not quench. Isaiah 42 verse 3. With hearts pounding in anticipation, the disciples obeyed their Lord's command. They spread among the throngs of humanity that awaited, each presence a testament of grace. But, amidst the clamor and chaos, there lingered a shadow, a figure cloaked in darkness whose eyes harbored hostility. What designs did this man have in waiting? Unbeknownst to the disciples, a confrontation with the powers of darkness loomed ahead, one that would reveal the strength of their faith and the greater details of God's sovereign plan. For even now, a call for healing rose from the hearts of the multitude, a call that would echo across the ages, the very themes of deliverance and redemption intertwined within the tapestry of hope unfurling in the presence of Christ. As the disciples moved among the multitude, a deep murmur of need surrounded them. The faces of the people were etched with fear and longing, eyes pleading for mercy, for a touch from the one who had the power to heal. Jesus, standing amongst them, looked upon the crowd with a heart so full of compassion that it nearly overflowed. "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11 verse 28, he called, his voice steady and resonant. The divine promise seemed to shine like a beacon in the twilight of their despair. Such were the throngs that gathered: a woman with a flow of blood for 12 years, a father with a child tormented by demons, and many others who clung to the edges of faith, desperate for a miracle. Each one approached with varying degrees of hope, knowing in their hearts the truth that had been proclaimed: He has made with us an everlasting covenant. Hebrews 13 verse 20. As Jesus began to walk among them, touching the sick and offering words of healing, the atmosphere changed. The air grew thick with expectancy. Each step he took sent ripples through the gathering, reaching the depths of their despair, stirring embers of hope long thought extinguished. Then, from amidst the crowd, a voice cried out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." It was a blind man, his sight robbed by darkness, yet his spirit shone bright with faith. "Lord, that I might receive my sight," he pleaded, his unwavering faith infusing the air with tension and expectancy. Jesus halted, eyes locking onto the man, a moment thick with divine potential. "What wilt thou that I should do unto thee?" Jesus asked gently, a question that rippled through the crowd, revealing the beauty of divine purpose. "Lord, that I might receive my sight," the blind man repeated, desperation etched upon his face. "Receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee." Luke 18 verse 42, Jesus declared. And suddenly, as if scales fell from his eyes, the man beheld the world in vibrant colors, for the light of heaven had pierced through his darkness. Shouts of joy erupted as the blind man praised God, his voice mingling with the cries of others called to belief. Yet, amidst the joys, the cloaked figure lingered close, darkness swirling around him like a tempest. The masterful whispers of the adversary sought to overshadow the triumph, for he knew that every act of healing was a blow against the very foundation of his despair. Who is this man that he commands even the dark powers? He seethed to himself, the animosity within him boiling. As the disciples stood astonished, watching the transformation unfold right before their eyes, they felt the weight of both wonder and fear. Each miracle held a promise of deeper understanding of their Master and his divine mission. "If he can heal the blind, what more can he do?" murmured Thomas, wrestling with the growing anticipation of a plan unfurling beyond comprehension. And just then, as if sensing the impending confrontation, Jesus turned towards the shadowy figure whose intentions remained veiled. "Fear not," he proclaimed, "for I have not come to condemn but to save." John 3 verse 17. A palpable tension hung in the air as the crowd fell silent, all eyes now resting upon the figure cloaked in darkness and the Lord of Light who stood before him unflinching. It was an unspoken duel set against the backdrop of faith and doubt, healing and destruction. A divine tension marked the air, heralding that not only would the desperate find healing, but that in his coming actions, God's purpose would unfold in ways they had yet to fathom. For even now, the echoes of a greater promise lingered, a whisper of God's sovereign plan, unfolding through the hands of the Son, who would reveal that it is through the shadows that his light would shine the brightest. The call of deliverance was about to reach its culmination, leaving many to ponder, what greater thing will God accomplish through this man? As the silence fell like a heavy dew across the multitude, the atmosphere crackled with a divine expectancy. The eyes of the crowd were transfixed upon the Son of God, awaiting his next words, hearts racing with the thrill of miraculous possibility. Yet amid the reverence, the shadowy figure recoiled, his malevolent intent barely concealed beneath layers of darkness. He sensed the sheer power emanating from the one who stood before him. A whisper of doubt flickered in the hearts of some. Could this be the one foretold by the prophets? The one who would tread upon the serpent and crush his head, Genesis 3 verse 15. Jesus of Nazareth, the figure hissed, his voice slippery like oil upon stone. You come claiming authority, yet who grants it to you? What have you to do with us? Are we to fear your presence? Jesus, unfazed by the taunt, reflected a calm that only divine essence could wield. I know thee who thou art, the unholy spirit, he replied, unwavering as he met the darkness with the full force of his light. Hold thy peace, and come out of him, Mark 1 verse 25. With those words, the air pulsed with holy authority. The ground beneath them trembled as the shadow writhing within the figure shrieked, a cacophony of anguish echoing through the crowd. Unseen forces grappled as Jesus delivered his command, and the onlookers gasped, clutching one another in fear and awe. The dark figure buckled and groaned under the weight of righteousness, eventually collapsing into silence. As the dust settled, a new revelation stirred among the people. Many approached the liberated man, their eyes wide and mouths agape, for there was a renewal in his countenance. A light had dawned within him, illuminating the remnants of desolation. His once blank stare now sparkled with clarity, as if the very breath of life had returned. In that moment, Jesus turned to his disciples, who had stood in amazement at the unfolding of glory. There shall be joy in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance, Luke 15 verse 7. As the crowd erupted in praise and worship, the woman with the flow of blood, emboldened by the miracles before her, stepped forth. If only I may touch the hem of his garment, I shall be whole, Matthew 9 verse 21, she thought, her heart racing with hope. Pressing through the throng, she reached with trembling fingers, and at last, her hand brushed the hem of his robe. At once, a surge of power coursed through her, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. Jesus paused, the crowd stilling once more. Who touched me? He asked, scanning the faces around him. His voice held authority and gentleness intertwined. The disciples exchanged unsure glances, wondering how such a question could pass when the multitude surged about him. Master, Peter ventured, the multitude throng thee, and press thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? Luke 8 verse 45. But Jesus pressed deeper still. Somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me, Luke 8 verse 46. The woman, fearful and trembling, came forward, falling down before him, proclaiming the whole truth of her affliction and healing. Daughter, Jesus said, his voice flowing with grace, thy faith hath made thee whole, go in peace, and be whole of thy plague, Mark 5 verse 34. As she rose, the crowd surged with renewed fervor, filled with testimonies of impossible possibilities made manifest. And while the joy of deliverance swept through them, Jesus turned once more to the disciples, revealing a greater mystery. I am the way, the truth, and the life, John 14 verse 6, he declared, and through me, all shall be called out of darkness into marvelous light. The air thickened with anticipation, resonating with whispers of divine promise yet to come. And as the shadows shifted once more, the question remained, what boundless depths of grace will unfold as this journey continues? As the fervor of praise filled the air, the multitude began to speak amongst themselves, voices a symphony of wonder and excitement. They marveled at the works they had witnessed. Is this not the Son of David? They questioned, recognizing the fulfillment of prophecy in their presence, the one who would heal their wounds and bind up their brokenness, Isaiah 61 verses 1-3. Yet amid the waves of joy, a gentle voice broke through. "Let us not forget the weight of this moment," spoke a wise scribe from the crowd, his brow furrowed in thought. "For in this time, as it has been foretold, there will arise division, and not all will welcome such authority." His words weighed heavy, and a hush fell over the assembly as they pondered the implications of a prophetic mantle that would be both comfort and challenge. Meanwhile, Jesus discerned their thoughts, perceiving the undertow of doubt that crept through hearts like stealthy shadows. He turned toward the disciples, a knowing look in his eyes, and invited them closer. "You see, my friends, even the light of hope casts shadows of fear." He paused as he surveyed the faces of those who had walked with him, noting their solemnity. "Do you believe I am the Word made flesh? That through me all may encounter the promise?" John 1 verse 14, Peter, emboldened by recent events, stepped forward. "Lord, we believe, yet we are troubled by what the future holds. The darkness appears fierce." Jesus smiled, for he recognized the sincerity behind their questions. "Fear not, for I have overcome the world." His voice echoed with the assurance of a promise yet to be fulfilled, John 16 verse 33. "In me there is refuge and strength. The storm may rage, but those who abide in my word shall find peace." Just then, a messenger broke through the crowd, breathless and urgently calling. "Jairus, the ruler of the synagogue, seeks thee. His daughter lies at the point of death." His words pierced the atmosphere, igniting a sense of urgency within the throng, and hope mingled with trepidation. Without hesitation, Jesus started toward Jairus, and the crowd parted, instinctively aware that a miracle was upon the horizon. Each step towards the house filled the air with a charged expectancy. As they walked, the anxieties of the disciples merged with the ethereal notion of what might be achieved. "What if he cannot?" whispered one, thoughts racing to the impossible. "Let not your hearts be troubled," Jesus declared, hearing their unspoken doubts. "Only believe, for every delay is not a denial of promise." Mark 5 verse 36. As they approached the house, the sounds of lamentation reached their ears, a discordant melody of grief that hung heavy in the air. The atmosphere turned thick with sorrow as mourners wept and wailed, for they believed life had slipped away. Jesus, unwavering, stepped boldly into the depths of despair. "Why make ye this ado and weep?" he asked with compassionate authority. "The damsel is not dead but sleepeth." Mark 5 verse 39. Confusion and scorn flickered across the faces of the mourners, for they had witnessed what they deemed impossible, a definitive ending, yet, the eyes of Jesus were set like flint. He took only a few disciples and the child's parents and entered into the chamber where she lay. Softly he took her by the hand, and in a voice tender yet powerful, he said, "Talitha cumi," which means, "Damsel, I say unto thee, arise." Mark 5 verse 41. At his command, life surged back into the frail form, and the child opened her eyes, vitality coursing through her veins. The miracle of life in the presence of death ignited a new fervor, filling the hearts with joy unheard amidst the mourning. As the word of this wondrous act began to seep through the streets, Jesus instructed those present to keep the secret, and yet how could they contain such glory? And in that moment, a new revelation dawned upon his disciples. The covenant promise held deeper than healing. It was a declaration of life eternal, a shadow of what was to come. Amidst the awe, a question lingered in the hearts of all who witnessed: what greater miracles shall we behold? Where will this path of divine sovereignty lead? And it came to pass that as the news of the girl's resurrection spread throughout the land, the crowds began to swell around Jesus once more, eager to witness his wondrous works and to hear his words of truth. Throughout the towns of Galilee, a spirit of anticipation gripped the hearts of the people. Whispers of who he was spread like wildfire, the air was thick with expectation and wonder. Meanwhile, Jesus withdrew to a secluded place with his disciples, seeking to impart wisdom amidst the swirl of excitement. He spoke to them softly, "You have seen the power of faith ignite the spirit of the lost. Yet, know this: miracles are not merely for the eyes that behold them, they are the unveiling of the Father's heart and purpose among his people." John 14 verse 13. As he addressed them, a certain woman pushed her way through the gathering throng. She had suffered for 12 long years with an issue of blood, enduring untold hardships, seeking healing from many physicians but finding no relief. With each step she took, her spirit wrestled with a fierce desperation, longing for deliverance. "If I may but touch his garment," she murmured to herself, her heart beating wildly, "I shall be whole." Matthew 9 verse 21. When she finally reached him, the crowd pressed against them like waves ceaselessly crashing upon the shore. With trembling hands, she reached out and brushed the hem of his robe. Immediately, a power surged through her, and she felt the healing wash over her like a warm light. Jesus stopped, sensing that virtue had gone out from him. "Who touched me?" he asked, turning to survey the multitude, now still with anticipation. His disciples, bewildered, responded, "Master, the crowd presses in on every side, and you ask who touched you?" Luke 8 verse 45, but Jesus continued to look about, his gaze penetrating the hearts of those around him. In that moment, the woman, knowing she was discovered, fell at his feet, trembling. "I touched you, Lord," she confessed, tears brimming her eyes. "For I have suffered greatly and thought if I could touch you, I would be healed." "Daughter," Jesus spoke gently, his voice wrapping around her like a warm embrace, "thy faith hath made thee whole, go in peace, and be whole of thy plague." Mark 5 verse 34, the disciples and the multitude marveled, witnessing yet another manifestation of his divine authority and compassion. Awe filled the air, the whispers of his name echoed through their minds like a melody from heaven, igniting a faith that began to tear through their limitations. Yet, as the woman's joy radiated in that divine moment, a messenger approached, breathless and full of sorrow. "Your daughter is dead," he said to Jairus, the ruler of the synagogue, his voice heavy with despair. "Why trouble the master any further?" Mark 5 verse 35, At this news, a weight fell heavily upon all present. But Jesus turned to Jairus and said, "Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." Luke 8 verse 50. His assurance broke through layers of sorrow, instilling hope in the heart of the distraught father who clung to every word spoken by the Master. Thus, they journeyed onward towards Jairus' house. The faith of the crowd began to swell, ignited by the testimonies before them, intertwining with the grief they felt. Each step resonated with the promise of life. All who followed began to understand that even in despair, God wove a tapestry of hope. What awaited them at Jairus' home would reveal a profound truth of the kingdom, a truth that would unveil deeper miracles than they could anticipate. Would they grasp the significance of divine healing and restoration, or would the shadows creep in once more? Little did they know that the full expression of God's sovereign plan was about to be unveiled. As they approached Jairus' house, the atmosphere thickened with tension and anticipation. The mourners had already gathered, their voices raised in lamentation, echoing through the corridors like a haunting refrain. The sight of the sobbing throng struck a chord in Jairus' heart, yet beside him walked the Master who had promised life against the gravity of death. Jesus, undeterred by the sorrow surrounding him, stepped forward. He entered the house with his disciples, beckoning Jairus to follow closely. As he entered, he turned to the mourners, saying, "Why make ye this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth." Mark 5 verse 39. This statement caused a stir among the crowd, disbelief clouded their hearts. Who could dare to speak such words in the face of death? But as the tears glistened in the eyes of those who grieved, Jesus gathered his inner circle, Peter, James, and John, and moved deeper into the house, followed by Jairus. The room lay shrouded in an air of desolation. The lifeless form of the young girl lay upon the bed, silence enveloping her stillness like a shroud. Jesus approached her, kneeling beside her. He took her hand, the warmth of his touch igniting hope amidst despair. "Talitha cumi," he spoke softly, which means, "Damsel, I say unto thee, arise." Mark 5 verse 41. His voice was a melody of authority and tenderness, resounding through the stillness, breaking the bonds of death itself. In that instant, life surged back into her body as if the words were an irresistible tide. The girl opened her eyes, and the room filled with gasps of unimaginable awe and joy. She sat up, trembling, her gaze seeking the familiar warmth of her Father's presence. Jesus turned to Jairus, a smile illuminating the moment as hope blossomed into reality. Commanding the astonished bystanders, he said, "Give her something to eat." The simple act of nourishment was a sign of restoration, a gentle reminder that the resurrection had taken place, not merely in body but in spirit as well. Jairus, overwhelmed with gratitude, clasped his daughter, his heart flooded with relief, joy, and the transformative clarity that faith in Jesus brought. News of the miracle spread rapidly, igniting a fervor among the people. Whispers of the authority of Jesus echoed through the streets as throngs began to see that he was the fulfillment of prophecy and the embodiment of divine promise. They began to connect the threads of faith to their daily lives, realizing that in him lay not only healing but life eternal. Yet within the depths of this victory, a profound mystery remained. For as Jesus performed miracles that revealed the sovereignty of God, a shadow lingered at the edge of every healing, a truth yet unfathomable to the crowd. The depth of his mission was far more than restoration, it was the onset of salvation for a broken world. Little did they know that the miracles were merely the beginning. God was orchestrating a grand tapestry of redemption, threads interwoven with divine purpose and love. Each miracle announced the kingdom, while layers of the heart and spirit awaited transformation, and as the people rejoiced, a question loomed in the hearts of all who witnessed: what greater work was God preparing to accomplish through the one who spoke life into the dead? The promise of deeper mysteries awaited just beyond the horizon, igniting a longing to seek and understand the fullness of God's sovereign plan. As the dawn broke, casting its radiant light upon the shores of Capernaum, hope surged anew among the people who had gathered for the miracles of Jesus. Beneath the whispering trees and the welcoming cries of fishermen returning from their early catch, the crowd clamored with anticipation. The air was thick with faith, an electric current stirring the hearts of the eager. Jesus stood amongst them, unwavering in purpose, his eyes reflecting the light of divine understanding. "Come, all ye weary and burdened," he called, voice steady and inviting like a shepherd summoning his flock. "Bring forth your ailments and your heartaches, for I am among you to heal and to restore." As they approached him, he took their hands, each touch reverberating with the life of heaven. A man tormented by demons fell at his feet, crying out for salvation. "Jesus, Son of God, I know you can heal me. I will not let despair rule my heart," he shouted. With compassion, Jesus gazed down upon him. "Your faith has made you whole," he proclaimed, and in that divine moment, shackles of darkness fell away, replaced by radiant light and peace. The crowd marveled, eyes wide in awe, their hearts ignited by the encounter with hope made flesh. Amid the rejoicing, Simon Peter pressed closer to his master. His heart was heavy with questions once more, uncertainties lingering like shadows. "Lord, how shall we carry forth this truth of your healing? Will we have the strength to face what lies ahead?" Jesus, aware of Simon's turmoil, rested a hand upon his shoulder. "Fear not, for I shall be with you always. The Spirit of the Lord shall empower you to speak boldly of the wonders you have witnessed. The season of trials will be your teacher, and in each challenge lies an opportunity to grow in faith." In that solemn embrace, Simon felt a divine assurance flood his soul. He understood he was being called not merely to witness but to participate in the unfolding plan of salvation. The anxieties that had once gripped him began to dissipate as he felt the weight of his calling solidify. A vessel of God's grace among the people, they gathered in clusters, recounting the miracles they had seen, reverberating with faith as they shared stories of healing and restoration. An endless choir of voices lifted in gratitude and worship, praising the Messiah whose presence had transformed them. A streaming tide of hearts, reaffirmed in belief, began to carry forth the message of their Redeemer. Nearby, the townsfolk of the Decapolis heard whispers carried on the wind's tales of the man who calmed storms, who cast out legions, and who raised the dead. The hearts of many ached to know if this Jesus could turn their sorrows into joy and despair into hope. Each step they took towards Capernaum echoed a profound yearning to witness the fulfillment of the promises they had long anticipated. As Jesus and his disciples moved among the gathering, his words stirred the very depths of their beings. "Blessed are those who believe without seeing," he declared, "for in faith, all things are possible." Little did they realize, as they traversed deeper into Galilee, that the adversary still lurked, cloaked in darkness and whispering seeds of doubt among the hearts of the ignorant. Yet every step walked in faith was a strike against the enemy's hold, a rupture in his dreams of despair. The disheartened, the broken-hearted, the outcasts approached with trembling hands and open souls, willing to accept the fullness of grace with every ounce of hope they could muster. A woman long afflicted pressed through the crowd, determination burning bright within her. With a heart fueled by desperation, she declared, "If I but touch the hem of his garment, I shall be healed." As she reached out, brushing the fabric that touched the Son of God, she felt a surge of energy course through her, a divine exchange that filled her with righteousness and peace. Jesus halted, turning to the crowd searching for her face. "Who has touched me?" he asked, his voice mingling with the awe-filled whispers. The woman, fearing the attention, stepped forward, confessing, "It was I, Lord. I have suffered, but I believed in your healing." "Daughter," his voice flowed over her like soothing balm, "your faith has made you whole, go in peace." Her joy erupted, cascading through the crowd like ripples on water, inspiring others to share in the miracle, and yet, every soul impacted was but a thread in a greater tapestry, woven by the hands of the divine. The disciples witnessed not only the miraculous but the heart of God's redemptive story unfolding before their very eyes. As Jesus taught, the essence of the divine promise crystallized in that moment where healing met restoration, and despair surrendered to hope. With every miracle, Jesus prepared them for the greater trial that awaited. The shadow of betrayal lingered nearby, hinting at the cost of their calling. The path was fraught with peril, yet in this moment, they grasped the fullness of the promise, that in every heart surrendered, the kingdom blossomed anew. As they departed, a chorus of voices joined in, lighting the dark paths ahead with the fervor of newfound belief. "Who is this man?" they echoed in praise, for they began to understand he was the way, the truth, and the life. John 14 verse 6. The very essence of hope and healing walked among them, beckoning them to enter into the eternal covenant of grace. Now, dear friends, let us embrace this journey together. If you find joy in these powerful accounts of faith and transformation, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so like this video and share it with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Your voice matters, together we can carry this message of hope. Leave a comment below sharing your reflections on this story and how it has impacted your faith journey. Don't wait even one more second, share this powerful testimony today, for you never know how it might change a life for eternity.